Danielle, and I am the Education Specialist here at the Turning Point Rape Crisis Center. I'm so glad that you tuned in today. I'm going to be talking about sexism as a part of week two of our ISM series, where we're breaking down the different forms of oppression, such as racism, sexism, ableism, elitism, classism, and so on and so forth. So, if this is something that you're interested in, or you think that someone in your life would be interested in, make sure to share this video, do a watch party. We always keep the recordings of our lives, so if you miss a week, you can always go back and watch a week that you missed. So last week was racism. If you want to go see that one, I really encourage that you do. And even if you don't think that you need the information, sharing it with your friends and family members because it has a lot of great information. But all of that aside, now let's get started with the presentation. Okay, so this is our presentation. It takes unity. A bystander's guide on being empowered and educated, because once we're educated about the problem, we can be the change to fix it and support survivors along the way. So here at the Turning Point, we have a 24-hour crisis hotline. If ever you watch one of our presentations, you have more questions about sexual violence, or you want to know more in-depth details about our services, you can call that number and we will be able to have those answers for you. There will be an advocate on there 24 hours a day, rain, shine, holiday or not. There will be someone to answer your questions. And so that number is 1-800-886-7273. And we can answer any questions revolving around sexual violence. Next, we offer counseling, and that's another reason where you could use the crisis hotline is calling and wanting to get involved with counseling. So we offer free counseling for our survivors and their friends and family members. And so we really just want to be able to support survivors and their friends and family during this time of trauma and going through such a terrible crime. We want to be able to support you and provide you with the tools to be able to grow and move forward. So next we offer advocacy, which is where we go into the hospital and we support survivors during their sexual assault nurse examination. So we provide them with resources, we let them know their rights, we overall just support them and are there for them to make sure that they feel comfortable as comfortable as you can be, and just let them know we are here, we care, we believe you, and we support you. And then the last thing we offer is this, which is education, going into the community in our online platforms and being able to spread awareness and provide education to people so that we can stop this heinous crime from ever happening. I would love to be able to say in 20 years that sexual violence is completely eradicated from the United States and from the world. So yeah, so that's why education is so important, is because we want to stop the problem at its root. And so I applaud you for coming and tuning in and learning, because that's how we need to grow and stop this problem from happening. So our mission is to highlight the impact of sexual violence on individuals and our community through education programs that foster hope, encourage change, and prevent sexual violence. Join us in the fight against sexual violence. The Turning Point is committed to reducing the prevalence of sexual violence in our community. We firmly believe that for this change to occur, each person has a responsibility and must do their part to prevent sexual violence. So, onto this week's topic, sexism. So, the definition of sexism is prejudice or discrimination based on a person's sex or gender. So, sexism can affect anyone, but it primarily affects women and girls. It has been linked to stereotypes and gender roles and may include the belief that one sex or gender is intrinsically superior to another. So you're going to see a lot of, if you tune into our stereotypes presentation, you're going to see a lot of parallels here, because stereotypes and gender roles are key components that lead to sexism. So let's get into it. So sexual violence and the isms. As a part of our series, we share the discussions about intersecting identities, oppression, and social justice have been a part of anti-violence movements for a long time. And many movement members have adopted a framework for discussing the continuum of sexual violence within the context of oppression and isms. So the same attitudes and behaviors that allow for sexual violence in our culture are reinforced and rooted in sexism, racism, ableism, ageism, and more. So now let's get into some statistics. Anybody who comes to my presentations knows that I am a statistics nerd, and I feel like statistics are really great at really presenting and showing the reality of the situation that we're in and the importance of why we have to talk about it. So 90% of rape victims are female. 90%. So out of every 10 survivors, 90% are female, 10% are male. So 21% of transgender, genderqueer, and non-conforming college students have been sexually assaulted, compared to 18% of non-transgender females and 4% of non-transgender males. So that group is more at risk as well. And so 90% of rape victims are female, and then we also have the LGBTQ community that is being affected by it at a higher rate as well. And being able to look at those statistics for what they are, and then being able to talk about where is this coming from. So let's get into it. So we have this public health model, and it's something that's so important to think about when we think about social issues, is defining the problem. We have to define the problem. So for this presentation, it's sexism. And then we have to identify the risk and protective factors. So we want to identify the risk and protective factors that that put somebody at risk for sexism, but also protect them from sexism as a whole. So then after we identify those risk and protective factors, we want to develop and test prevention strategies. So testing prevention strategies from sexism ever happening again, and then ensuring widespread adoption. So ensuring that once we figure out what works, that everybody takes on this public health model so that they can eradicate this problem and it can be widespread and we can eradicate the problem. So now we're going to identify some risk factors. So individually, the risk factors are hypermasculinity, including objectification of women and male entitlement, hostility towards women, unhealthy attitudes about sex and sexuality, also consent, and then gender inequality. Those things are individual risk factors. And so then when we go to relationship, association with sexually aggressive peers and delinquent peers put somebody at risk. And then within the community, a general tolerance of sexual violence within the community is a risk factor. And then societal. So societal norms that support sexual violence and weak laws and policies related to gender equity. So now let's talk about some protective factors, because this is what we want. We want to really hone in on the protective factors and be like, this is what we want to be doing. Risk factors are what we want to stay far away from. Protective factors are what we want to hone in on. So protective factors are gender equality. So women and men being paid the same rate for the same job, and things like that. And then connectedness, being able to acknowledge the differences, but still feeling a sense of connectedness and not this is my side, that's your side, we're against you, because that's never the case. And then conflict resolution, coming up with proper conflict resolution methods to be able to not have these negative feelings build up and then them turn into stereotypes and other negative mechanisms for control. And then empathy. Empathy is the biggest one. Everybody could use a little bit more empathy. And we may do a whole presentation on gaining empathy and how to, hone in on your empathy. But empathy is so important, and really saying, I understand and I feel you, and I am here, and what can I do to help you? So, what do you notice about these pictures? What are some things that come to your mind? Now, obviously, I can't hear you because I'm in my own live stream, but um, I want you to think about what we present as being a girl and what we present as being a boy in America. What do we say being boys? What do we say being a girl is? And whenever we have gender reveals and baby showers, what color clothes do you get? What color do you show whenever you announce you're having a boy? What color do you show when you announce you're having a girl? Now, these things aren't necessarily inherently bad, saying that girls like pink and boys like blue, but what about if a girl likes blue and a boy likes pink? What happens then? Or if you even get into the minuscule details of these pictures, you have basketball. I don't know if you can see my cursor. So you have basketball over here. Okay, it looks like a science kind of lab coat. You have superheroes. You have all sorts of kind of games, like this is a four-wheeler, a lot of like mobility games. And then over here, we have dresses, we have kitchen sets, we have princesses, babies, books. We have those things over here. But what if he wants to cook? And what if she likes four-wheelers? What does it really mean to be a woman? And what does it really mean to be a man? I want you to think about that. So, what are some things that we see? We're going to get into some really intense things. So, I'm going to provide a trigger warning. So, things we see on, I'm sorry, forgive me. Um, what do we see in our media? What do we see? What do we see in Facebook and Twitter and Instagram? What kind of memes do we make jokes of? We have things like, I don't have sex on the first date, and Bill Cosby slipping drugs as a joke. This is something that someone would share for likes and retweets. And then up in the top corner, we have Snow White sleeping, which, if we talk about consent, her getting kissed by her prince while she's sleeping is not consent. And so they have a picture of Snow White sleeping and Brock Turner smiling next to her. And if you don't know about Brock Turner, he assaulted a woman who was intoxicated and passed out, and had two witnesses see him, and only served 3 months, maybe 6 months in prison for it. So then the next one is when she lets you buy her a drink in Bill Cosby, because that was something that his survivors said a lot, was that he drugged their drinks. That was his thing. So we have these memes that are making a mockery and making jokes out of very severe traumatic experiences. Imagine how the survivor of um, um, this guy, Bill Cosby, and the other guy, imagine how they would feel, Brock Turner. I completely blanked. How do you think Brock Turner survivor would feel if she saw that meme? Or how do you think the numerous amounts of Bill Cosby survivors would feel if they saw those jokes and people making jokes out of their story and their experience? Because as much as we want to say, oh, it's not that big of a deal, it's just a joke, like you should laugh about it, it shouldn't be that serious, we're making jokes out of somebody's story and somebody's trauma, and that's never okay. So now, what do we see in magazines? So again, a trigger warning, because these are real ads that have been shown in popular magazines, and it's important to share because it's important to talk about where these stereotypes and gender roles come from and how they affect sexism in our community. So We have this ad. We have these ones. These are food items that are being made to be presented as, female body parts. We have Dolce and Gabbana and Calvin Klein. The oppression of women as a form of art, as a form of fashion. We have cars in different ads where the woman is being sexualized as an object instead of a person. So when we think about those, what does it lead to? What does this lead to? Oh, okay, so we have ads that are showing women in grotesque ways, but it's just an ad. No, because we have these ideas in our mind and these stereotypes in our mind. When we see that, that creates something in our brain to where it allows us to treat people a certain way. It goes back to different movies that have impacted, racism, or movies that, objectify women, and then men see the movie and they're like, oh, well, that's, the popular no, no, yes kiss. I usually can't show videos in this because it doesn't sync up well, but there was a popular thing, and sometimes it still happens in movies, but we're moving towards more consent oriented media now, luckily. But and James Bond, it used to always be that no, no, yes kiss, where he'd be fighting with a spy or another female antagonist, and she would fight, and then give in to the kiss. And so that teaches that just because a girl says no, that doesn't mean she really means no. And so then you have people perpetrating this in real life and them not seeing the issue there, not seeing the problem there because they've seen it in movies and media. So what does this lead to? 2011, but now women are suing the company again for the same issues. And then Nike, women who worked at Nike are suing over pay discrimination. Their demands are critical in a broader fight for rights for women. And Disney, even Disney, and anybody who knows me knows I love Disney, but we have to confront these brands that we support. I implore you to really look at, where your brands that you love, donate their money, what they stand for, what employees of the company say about them, any lawsuits. Really pay attention to those things, because what we permit, we promote. And if we're still giving them our money, we're saying we don't really care. And so Disney, current and former female Walt Disney Corporation executives are alleging rampant gender pay discrimination and have expanded their case against the Burbank entertainment giant. So these are very recent. All of these were like 2018 and below, of cases that are going on for gender discrimination and pay gaps, because women are still being paid less than men are for doing the same job and not receiving opportunities for growth in management and so on and so forth. And so now we're gonna get into some more things. So Brock Turner, as you saw, let me use my cursor because maybe that will show. So over here, FSU pays $950,000 to a woman who accused Jamie Winston of sexual assault. So instead of punishing him, they just paid her out and gave her hush money. And then Florida State, this is from the same article, how Florida State covered up 2 rape reports against Jamie Winston. And so we see this ex-swimmer, ex-Stanford swimmer out of jail after sexual assault sentence. So that's Brock Turner. Stanford swimmer Brock Turner was released 3 months early. So he was originally supposed to be in there for 6 months. He came out in 3. And that was with 2 witnesses seeing what he did and attempting to stop him, but he fled. But they testified and everything. So you had 2 witnesses and a survivor, and he only served 3 months. So there's no prison for this Colorado student who raped a helpless freshman. We have the Kobe Bryant rape case, which rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant had a rape case, and he later on in his later years of his life came and said, when I was younger, I thought that I had consent. Now that I am older, I'm aware that I did not have consent. And that's why it's so important to talk about consent with your children, with your peers, so that they fully understand what consent is, so that we don't have situations where people are being hurt due to ignorance. And he actually ended up using his story to spread awareness about sexual violence and consent and why it's important to fully understand consent. So then fans condemn Johnny Depp's abused ex-wife. There's more information that's come out since that Johnny Depp actually may have been the abused one. And so there's always these cases. We have a new child rape case filed against Donald Trump that should not be ignored. These are all, news articles that you can see. And a lot of times whenever we see someone popular in the media who has a sexual assault case, or somebody's claiming something, a lot of times the response is kind of like, oh, maybe she's lying. Oh, maybe she just wants money. When we really don't know these people. We don't know Bill Cosby personally. We didn't eat lunch with him and go and hang out with him. We only saw him on his show. And so if we have an idea about people based off of, oh, well, I love their music, so they can't be this way, or oh, they're a great athlete, or oh, they're a great X, Y, and Z, whatever. So she must be lying. If we come into situations like a woman is lying, that makes it even more difficult for a survivor to tell their story, because it's so traumatic, telling their story over and over and over again. And all a survivor really wants to know is that they're believed and supported, because sexual assault is such a traumatic thing to go through. And the fact that they're going to have to repeat their story so often, it's best to just support them the best way that you can. So, questions. Let me stop share. If you ever have any questions revolving around sexual violence, you can always call our crisis hotline, 1-800-886-7273. But it's so important to have these discussions about sexual violence and how it relates to different oppression mechanisms, such as racism, sexism, ableism, ageism. We have to have these conversations, because if we don't, then we are ignoring a vast problem, because every 73 seconds is sexually assaulted in America. And out of 10 survivors, 9 of them are females, and 1 of them is male. And so this is a female-dominated crime that's greatly perpetrated by men. And so we have to confront these gender roles and these stereotypes so that we can put an end to this. So I thank you so much for tuning in and learning some more. If you feel the need to watch extra videos that you may have missed, you can always go to our videos on our Turning Point page and find past recordings of past presentations. Share this video and tell your friends about the information, because it's so important to share with your friends knowledge and information that you gain and learn from all of this, because we have to be the change that we want to see in the world, and I know that you can do it. So all that being said, I'm so glad you joined us, and I will see you next Thursday at 10 a.m. Bye.